Well, hello. Last time we spoke about a component as a basic building block of your Angular app. We also saw how modern Angular component uses such things as a component decorator, a template for its UI, and a class for its logic. Well, today we are going to move a step further from understanding components in theory to create and run a full Angular project. With this in mind, we'll cover topics like installing Angular CLI 2. We'll also create a new Angular project. Then we will explore the project folder structure. Are you ready? Let's get started. Okay, so let's start by looking at the prerequisites. Before creating an Angular project, we must install Node.js. Now to do this, we need to visit this website here. Come here and then we just say nodejs.org download. Now while you're here, you can decide whether you want a Windows installer or a standalone binary. I already have this downloaded and installed, so I'm going to skip this process. Now, after this has been done, after the process has been completed, we need to verify our installation. So to do that, we are going to open my text editor here. You can use any text editor that you're comfortable with if you're not comfortable with Visual Studio. In my case, I'm going to use the Visual Studio throughout this tutorial series. So the first thing that we're going to do here is navigate to our folder, our project folder, and then while we're in our project folder, we're going to go and do this node space -v for version. And in my case, I'm using version 22. Now, one might wonder, why do we need Node.js in Angular? Well, Angular runs in the browser, but the development itself happens outside the browser itself. That's where Node.js comes in. It is a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome version 8 JavaScript engine that allows the JavaScript to run outside the browser. Now, once you are done with verifying your Node.js, then we can verify our Node Package Manager by just simply doing this npm, which is short for Node Package Manager, space -version. In this case, you should be able to get your Node Package version here. Now, also, why Node Package Manager and why is it important in Angular? Well, when you create an Angular project, Node Package Manager is responsible for installing dependencies. We're going to talk about dependencies later on in this tutorial. So Angular application relies on these packages such as Angular core library, TypeScript, RxJS, build tools, and all these are downloaded and managed by npm, which is short for Node Package Manager. All right, now onto our next step. Let's install Angular command line or Angular CLI. Now, Angular CLI is a tool developed and maintained by Angular team. It allows developers to create and manage and build Angular application using terminal commands. So to install, I'm going to show you two different ways of doing that. Either you can install it globally or you can install it locally. So to install Angular globally, all you need to do is you go npm Node Package Manager. npm. Then from there you go on and say, I want to install globally Angular CLI. That is if you want to install it globally, you can run this command here. If you want to install it locally, you can run this following command. You can go on and say npx want to install Angular CLI. Then you go on and specify your project. I'm going to specify my project. I'm going to call it my -demo-app. Then once you're done with this, then you can hit enter. And it's going to run quite a number of configurations and so on. While it's doing that, I want to just talk about the difference that is there between your global installation and your local installation. But before we do that, there are a couple of questions that you're going to be asked. Which CSS style sheet would you want? Which style sheet would you want to use? You can specify the one which you want to use. For this project, I'm going to use SCSS. And then maybe I might want to use one of these AIs. I'm going to use just Cloud or Gemini. It's up to you. You can choose which you want to select from there. But another whole new video that we're going to look at explaining all these features that we've just selected here. But while it's building, while it's creating, I just want to talk about the difference that is there between the two here. So when you install Angular CLI globally on your computer, what it does is that it adds the ng command to your system path. You can run this ng from anywhere. Now, after creating or after installing globally, you can create a project like in this following ways. You can go and say ng new, then specify the name of your project. Now, here are the advantages of creating a project globally using Angular CLI globally. It is very simple for beginners. That's number one. You don't need to type npx like what we did with local version of it, and then ng works everywhere. But the major setback is that if you're working on multiple projects, you might have version conflicts between your projects, and updating CLI may break other projects here. Then when we talk about installing your Angular CLI locally, we are talking about you downloading your Angular CLI temporarily, and you can use it once where you create your project. Now, these disadvantages are that it's not global installed. Each project has its own CLI version. Okay, so now while our Angular is running its processes, let's take a look at the difference that is there between global installation of our CLI and local installation of our CLI. We'll start with the global installation. When you install Angular globally on your computer, all that you're doing is that you're adding ng command on your system path, which means that you can run your ng from anywhere. Advantages are that it is simpler for beginners, no need to type npx, and it works everywhere. The disadvantage is that if you're working on multiple projects, you will have conflicts of versions. Also, updating CLI may break other older versions. Now, with local, installing Angular CLI locally, it means that you are downloading your Angular CLI temporarily, and you are installing it inside your local project or your project locally, which means that there's no global installation required there. Advantages are that, like what I've just said earlier on, there are no global installations required, and each project controls its own CLI version, which means that there are no conflicts. It's better for team and production environments. Disadvantages are that it's slightly longer when it comes to running commands, and requires internet for the first time if not cached. Okay, now that our project is finished its to compile, the next thing that we're going to do is we need to build this project, run it, and see if it's going to give us or going to show us anything. So the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we sit in our project. So I'm going to go and say cd change directory to my -demo-app. Press enter. There we go. We're now sitting in our project folder, and then from there we will then go on to build our project. So I'm going to say npx. Remember, we're using npx because we build our project. Our Angular CLI is locally. So npx ng build, so that it builds and compile everything before we run it. Hey, this might take a little bit. Might take a while, but once it's finished, we can then run our project, and then from there we will look at the folder structure. Then we conclude this session here. There we go. Looks good. Okay, looks good. No errors here. So the next thing that we need to do is we now need to go and say npx space ng self to run our project. Okay, it's building. There we go. It gives us our URL. So we're going to just follow this link here. And then there we have our first project. Hello, my demo app, and all these other added features, like you can explore docs, you can learn with tutorials. You can learn tutorials here. You can also look at all these other CLI docs and so on. Okay, so now that we have built our first project, we need now to look at our folder structure. So I'm going to just expand this, and then let's look at this. So the moment you build your project, the moment it's finished compiling everything, all the files and all the dependencies that you might have in your project, it's going to show you this structure here, where you've got your source. If you expand your source, you will see such folders as your app folder, your assets folder, your environment, your index, your main TS file. It's also going to show you your angular.json file, your package file, and your tsconfig file here. So we just want to look at some of them in brief. I know most of them we will look at them as we proceed with our tutorial. So the first thing that we want to look at is our source. So let's expand the source. You will see like what we have just said here. You will see your app folder. So let's just expand this. Now in your app folder, there are a couple of files in there. One file is your HTML, where you will see all your HTML structure here. So all these that you see, all these structures that you see here, are the very same thing that we saw here. So this is where you now start to apply your structure, your HTML structure here, and then from there you build your tree going forth. Besides that, we also have got our CSS file. Every styling that you're going to, every presentation, every styling that you're going to do on this on your HTML template, you can put them in here. And then for your business logic, we have got our app TS file, your TypeScript file. This is where you put all your methods in here. When you call your services, you call them from here. Okay, and then besides that, we also have our app route. This is where you define all your navigation routes. You're going to have your application. As you add more stuff, your application is going to grow, and you need to navigate from one page to the other or from one section to another. This is where you put your navigation routes. Now, besides that, we also have got our main TS file. This is now where Bootstrap starts your Angular project, your Angular application. As you can see here with our Bootstrap application here. And then the other file, which is very important that we might want to talk about, is the angular.json file. This one here. So this angular.json file, it's your project configuration file. It contains such things as your build settings, your assets, your output directory, your production configurations. And also another very important package file that we might need to talk about is the package file. Now the package file, what it does is that it lists all your dependencies, your dev dependencies, your scripts like ng-save, which we have just used now, ng-build also, which we have just used now. And then so these are the main files that we need to know from this point here. We will talk about other files as we progress with our tutorial series. With this, we have concluded our third lesson. We'll see you in the fourth one. Thank you for watching.